Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Reckless Paradise podcast. I am your host, Dystro, and tonight's episode is a debate hour episode. It is WrestleMania season, but I know it's not till April this year, but kind of get an early head start this time around. And tonight's debate hour, it is going to be over, manias, like I said, but I get to pick the manias this time. My co-producer, um, Marissa, she has tasked me with picking two WrestleManias in a row, and then I, pick and choose, which one I do for the remainder of the last episode of March. Um, so the two manias that I'm going to pick tonight, it is going to be WrestleMania 25 and 26. So this one's going to be kind of tough, um, mainly because both WrestleManias have the Taker versus Shawn Michaels matches. Now, a lot of people are probably going to be saying, well, you should pick 25 or you should pick 26. I am going to base it off of the matches, the buy rate, and how I enjoyed it as a viewer watching the WrestleManias and all that stuff, because I didn't have WWE Network back then. I didn't have like, pay per view on demand back then. Like, I mean, we were broke. We were broke. So since the dawning of WWE PLEs on the Netflix app and all that stuff, I have watched WrestleMania 25 and 26 before in full, and I will try to, I guess, pick and choose like the best matches from each card. And I know that's going to be kind of hard to do that, but tis the season of WrestleMania. So we are going to start things off with WrestleMania 25. It says the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania, which is a complete lie. It is the 25th annual WrestleMania that took place on April 5th, 2009 in Houston, Texas, which held the promotions Raw, SmackDown, and ECW back then, before it became dormant. So this was the second WrestleMania held in Houston after WrestleMania X7 or 17 in the Astrodome in 2001. This would also be the last WrestleMania to feature the ECW brand, as it was dissolved in February 2010. Of course. 8 matches were held on the event's card, which featured a super card in a scheduling of more than one main bout. The final match of the night, which was the Triple H versus Randy Orton WWE title match, for the Raw side. And then for the SmackDown side, we had John Cena, Edge, and Big Show for the World Heavyweight Championship. But the main match for the ECW brand was for the WWE Tag Team Championships, in the World Tag Team titles, which was the Colon's Carlito and Primo before it was Epico and Primo, versus the World Tag Team Champions John Morrison and The Miz from ECW, in a lumberjack match to unify the two championships, which took place on the pre-show, of course. And also one of the all-time classic matches on this card too, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. We had Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy. We had Chris Jericho beating up 3 old men, which I'm not gonna lie, it's like when you hear Chris Jericho beating up Roddy Piper, Ricky Steamboat, and Jimmy Snuka, it's like, okay, well, what kind of WWE like 13 or 12 universe mode bullshit is that? And we also had the Money in the Bank ladder match. Also, Um, so the buy rate for this was 975,000 buys, which I think is just mostly because of the Taker versus Shawn match on this card. I mean, it could have been because of like the triple threat between Cena, Edge, and Big Show, maybe, but I don't believe that. Tickets for the event commenced sale to the public on November 8th of 2008. So this was December. So 5 months in the making. For the third consecutive year, WrestleMania broke the record for the highest gross pay-per-view in WWE history, grossing $6.9 million in ticket sales, which included fans from all 50 states, 24 countries, and 7 Canadian provinces. WrestleMania 25 generated approximately 960,000 pay-per-view buys, grossing $21 million in revenue. The event pumped an estimated 49.8 million into the local economy and generated close to 6 million in local tax revenue, equating to 600 full-time jobs for the area. And also had a huge attendance record of 72,744 people on the night, which was the eighth largest attendance in WrestleMania history. Which, I mean, to be honest with you, like that's kind of crazy. Um, so this was the second WrestleMania to be held in Houston. Um, mainly promoted WrestleMania 25 under the tagline "Everything is bigger in Texas, especially WrestleMania." Since its announcement of at WrestleMania 24 in March the last year, WWE later began using the 25th anniversary WrestleMania name in late 2008 to just promote the event. Tickets for WrestleMania were originally scheduled to go on sale on September 20th of 2008, but had to be postponed out of concern for the residents near the Gulf of Mexico due to Hurricane Ike and the disaster area declaration by Texas Governor Rick Perry. Um, Following another postponement due to the effect of Ike in the state of Texas. WWE announced that the ticket sales would be postponed until November 8th of 2008, which, to be fair, smart move, smart play. Also, the theme songs for this event was ACDC's War Machine and their live version of Shoot to Thrill. We had Kid Rock on this night. And then we had Crash by Decipher Down and Touch by Vast on this night too. Um, which is like that's it's not a bad thing. So it's not bad bands and all that stuff, but it's like to have ACDC and Kid Rock on the night, man, like that's just crazy. So the first match, I should say, it's a dark match, was the WWE Tag Champions defeating the World Tag Team Champions in a winner takes all lumberjack match. And this was like just to open the show and all that stuff. So we also had like that was the pre-show match, but the first match of the night was Money in the Bank. Since 5 years removed from WrestleMania 20. Um, I've always liked the Money in the Bank ladder matches. I always think that they should have just stayed a staple of WrestleMania every year. Because it gets people on the card that did not get a chance to be on the card. Um, I've always thought it's like a good kind of like coming out party for a lot of people. Like if like you know that they're gonna be like future main eventers or future stars and all stuff, you put them in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And this one was actually kind of good too. And this was the second to last one that they've ever done on a WrestleMania. It ended at it ended being at WrestleMania in 20 at 26, but then it became its own thing later in the year. Um, so the participants for this one was CM Punk, Christian, Finley, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Mark Henry, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin. Um, Crazy to see MVP and Shelton Benjamin, former or future Hurt Business members in the process there. Um, it was actually kind of a shock to see Punk like win it 2 times in a row. But I know later in the year, or no, the next month, I think it's Extreme Rules. And he cashes in on Jeff Hardy at that event. Um, and it's it's just great, or not the next month, but the next month after that. That became like Extreme Rules. Uh, um, because I know Jeff goes on to have a good program with Edge over the World Heavyweight Championship. Um, and it's like, okay, like good things are gonna come for CM Punk. Winning the Money in the Bank ladder match is like usually a guaranteed title shot anytime, anywhere for any championship up to a year. There's been a lot of successful people that have held that distinction. There's been a lot of people that has like failed miserably. Case in point, Damian Sandow, Baron Corbin, and then there's always been, or well, I would say Alberto Del Rio is a close one too. But we don't really count that. Uh, um, the best case scenario ones was like Dolph Ziggler, CM Punk, Edge at New Year's Revolution, in 2006. Um, and like I've said, like there's been a good track record for people that are cashing it in. Um, more so good than bad. Let's just say that. Um, but it's also cool to see like the future kind of like I guess Hall of Famer caliber people. They're still kind of there to this day. I would say like out of all these people, Kofi Kingston's the most consistent one still there. I know Punk just came back not so long ago. Like yeah, Kofi Kingston's the only one that's still kind of there to this day. Like he hasn't really left. Like he hasn't gone, and gotten fired or anything. Like he just stayed true to his colors and just made the best out of a good scenario, or made good out of a bad scenario sort of thing. Um, so after that, huge thing. We've had the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal, which was won by Santina Marella, aka Santina Marella in drag. Um, this really didn't really be needed, to be honest with you. It could have just been. It's like I hate that they don't give any of the women on the WrestleMania cards any time to shine because they have to put them all into a battle royal, and that was kind of the norm back then. Like they didn't give divas a chance at all. And now in later years, we've had like the first women Hell in a Cell. Had the first women's Iron Woman match. We've had last woman standing matches. We've had submission matches. We've had lots of women's incorporated matches over the last like 10 plus years, which is actually really cool to see because they finally woke up and just like, hey, like, okay, look, like, we're having all these women becoming like future and current Hall of Famers, like, why not give them a chance? But nowadays, it's kind of going back to that social norm a little bit. Because, like, there's been, like the case in point, like Jade Cargill, like the last time she won the title, like she didn't really defend it that much, but then like she defended it against Jordan Grace, and I don't know if that match went like longer than less than 10 minutes. I don't really know. It's it's like just give them something, like it's like just give them something, and then they can just run the fucking ball with it. Um, but like, like I said, back then, 2009, 2010, like, they were kind of going through the trenches and all that stuff, but we'll get there eventually. Next match, though, was Chris Jericho versus Jimmy Snuka, Ricky Steamboat, and Roddy Piper in an elimination match, handicap elimination match. Um, I do recall I know going into Backlash that year in '09, Jericho and Steamboat were going. Like, Steamboat at that time in '09, he could still go. Which is actually really cool to see because, he was up there in age. I mean, let's be honest here. He was up there in age. But he could still put on the burners like it was nobody's business. It was actually really cool to like see him like bust out like a crossbody, the double chops, the chop off the top and all that stuff. Like, it was actually really cool, really really cool. Um, I think it ended up being Jericho, Jericho and Steamboat in the final of the handicap match. Um, and I mean Jericho obviously won, but like, man, like, just to see Steamboat after all that time, like, away from the business, and then coming back into it, being like, I can still go, bro. Like, and like, he had a better match the next month at Backlash that year against Chris Jericho, and it was still freaking good. Despite his age. Um, and like, it's so crazy to think, like, some of these legends, they could still go no matter what their age is. They could still put it on like they were wrestling back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It does not matter. Like, if you give them the proper build, the proper storyline, the proper motivation, and if you give them the right opponent that they can work off of, you are dead set for a good match on that card. Um, it was actually just kind of cool just to see Ricky Steamboat again in the colors and all that stuff. That was actually kind of cool. So, after that was Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy in an Extreme Rules match. Um, I know they ran this story a few times before. Case in point was like 2000, 2001, I think ish, because Matt was kind of jealous of Jeff's success. Um, I know they did in 2000. I think they did in '01. Uh, and then I know they split off since then. During that time, doing singles stuff. And then they kind of like came back together and then broke up again. It was like, it's just so weird because, like, when you think of brother versus brother feuds, some of them you would say maybe like Taker and Kane, like Hardy's is kind of in there. The Dudleys, like, yeah, like they broke up, but like, eventually they came back together at some point. Um, I don't know. It's just like, I think they had a better brother versus brother feud in TNA in Impact. Because it was like during the Broken Woken stuff, which that was actually kind of creative and actually gave them creative freedom to do the shit that they wanted to do. I mean, this was like a good. it was actually a good Extreme Rules match. There was some spots, like there was one in particular, the double table spot. I know they said this on the Chris Van Vliet podcast recently, that like if he didn't, like if he overshot that, like Jeff would have landed right on his face. Um, which I think is just kind of crazy that he almost overshot that, but still kind of like try to make good and just go through the table. It was a crazy ass spot. Um, like some of the weapons that they used was crazy, like the picture frame, a vacuum cleaner. What else did they use? Like they used Matt in the at the finish just wraps a chair out around Jeff's fucking neck and just hits him with a twisted fate, like almost kills him. Um, like it was just that was so crazy. I mean that was a creative finish too. Um, I know they've had crazier matches, but the match that they had the next month at Backlash in '09, the I Quit match, I would say that's a better representation of their feud because it was way better. Um, but I mean, it was still warranted. I guess it was still warranted on the Mania card. Um, I mean, it was a little good little cliff note in their feud. So then we had Rey Mysterio versus John Bradshaw Layfield for the Intercontinental Championship, which lasted 21 seconds. And I mean, yeah, like Rey Mysterio beats him. Who says that you cannot have a 21 second contest on a Mania that was filled with like a lot of action? um, and plus, like, this was the last thing we saw of JBL at that time because he would go into commentary. Um, I've always liked JBL's commentary. It will get obnoxious a little bit, but man, he's a good commentator, man. Like he can. I'm trying to put this in the politest way possible. He will be able to dissect a move or try to like get into the mindset of somebody, but then he will shout ball game like so many times like it will get borderline obnoxious, but then like he will kind of tone it back down a little bit. um and it was actually a cool way to like just give like some breather, I guess, before we get to what could have been the main event at this point. Um, it is Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, part one. Um, so from what I can recall, I know they fought each other in the Rumble. Both men didn't win the Rumble, um, because it was John Cena that returned that year. And um, then I know Taker goes on to win the World Heavyweight Championship, and then he defends it in the Elimination Chamber that year in '09, and then Shawn Michaels out of the depths of hell, he comes in, super kicks Taker, cost Taker the championship, which got won by Edge, and then he basically just says to Taker like, I've beaten you before, you've never beaten me, and kind of just been like, let's just have a match, bro. Like, um, when people talk about the Taker and Shawn matches that they've had, not including the match that they had at Crown Jewel a few years later, um, they have always said that the match quality is in the 25 one, but the story is in 26. And I kind of agree with that, but I'm going to be going over both of the Taker Shawn Michaels matches from 25 and 26. So, this match, Taker and Shawn, it went over half an hour, right? And I would say, this is just me, but I would say this should have been the main event. This should have been the main event. Because after Taker and Shawn, everybody in that arena, their air was just sucked out of the room. Because when we get to the main event, uh, everybody is worn out from Taker and Shawn. If they had just put it in the main event, I think people would have been more, I guess, drawn in to the matchup because after that they have to deal with not one but two title matches after that. So after Taker versus Shawn, we go into the triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship. John Cena, Big Show, and Edge. There was a lot of people that were probably going to be like, well, this should have maybe opened first to kind of get the crowd hyped up a little bit. Maybe go into, the Money in the Bank or something, or maybe the Battle Royal to kind of like cool the crowd down, bring them back up again, whatever. And plus, like, John Cena wins, lol. Because I think it's Cena and Edge at Backlash in '09. I do recall, I think, if I can go back up here, I think it is. Let's see. Yes, it is. So it was Edge and Cena for the World Heavyweight Championship, which was won back by Edge in a Last Man Standing match because of the Big Show. Lol. It's like every convoluted thing. um, and then you go into the main event, which was Triple H versus Randy Orton. The build for it was phenomenal. The match, it was kind of not what people were expecting. Because Orton around this time, he had the Black Force, like Black Air Forces on energy. Like he will punk kick your face in, he will RK you out of nowhere just because he felt like it. He would just give you CTE if he wanted to. Triple H, on the other hand, he just did not give a fuck about anything. Um, and plus, like, he was the WWE champion. Because I think he won in the Chamber the month before, and nobody really wanted to see this match because they've seen it many, many times before, and we already knew the outcome of that matchup. But the also added stip was if Triple H was counted out or DQ'd, he would lose the title. Then why the fuck are we having this match then? Because Randy Orton still could have done that shit. Like he could still do that shit. Um, like I said, I think they could have just done Taker and Shawn in the main event. I think people would have went home happier because Taker's streak is still alive and well, 17-0. And then like they would do the exact same thing the next year in 2010 at that Mania that year, but it was in the main event. They learned from their mistakes. Um, I mean, the match itself between Triple H and Randy Orton, we've seen it 1,000 times. Like they could probably do that shit in their sleep. Um, the added caveat of the counted out or DQ'd, like he would lose the title. It's like that's kind of boring. I wish they would have made it like I don't know, like no holds barred. I mean, but we've had already had that with Extreme Rules. But like I said, with the Taker Shawn Michaels match, they were completely air sucked out of that room. Because there was no way that both of those title matches were going to compete with that. Um, it's like I mean, we still got 26 to go over, but I really just don't know. So, talking about WrestleMania 26, the next year, 2010, this was the 26th annual WrestleMania, which is I think it's the 25th. I think this one. Um, this was at the State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, which has the Raw and SmackDown divisions. No mention of ECW because it folded in February. Um, it was the first WrestleMania since WrestleMania 9 in 1995 with a non-title match as the main event, the first WrestleMania held in the U.S. state of Arizona, and the fifth held in an open-air or retractable roof venue after WrestleMania 6 in 1990, WrestleMania, oh my gosh, WrestleMania, is that 8? Or no, WrestleMania 9, I'm sorry, WrestleMania 9, Jesus Christ. WrestleMania 11, I'm sorry, that's 95, I'm so sorry. Um, I don't even know my Roman numerals. That's crazy. And WrestleMania 18 in 2002, and then WrestleMania 24 in 2008. Um, this consisted of 8 matches, 3 main card matches. The final match on the card was a no DQ, no count between Shawn Michaels and Taker, which we will get to in a minute. This one had a attendance of 72,219 people. And then I know the one last year in '09 had okay, so 72,744 people. So it was a little bit under 200. I mean, it's not a bad house like for the University of Phoenix Stadium. Like that's not bad. But the buy rate was 885,000 compared to 975,000 from 25. I mean, the match in question is Taker and Shawn. That's the only match that I think a lot of people really wanted to get behind because it's Shawn versus Taker 2, Electric Boogaloo, and well, we know what happens, but tickets for the event commenced sale to the public on November 7th, 2009. WrestleMania 26 generated approximately 885,000 pay-per-view buys, grossing $49 million in revenue. And then the event grossed $5.8 million in ticket sales, making the event the highest grossing and attended internet entertainment event held at the University of Phoenix Stadium. Which is saying a lot because when I saw that venue and saw that all that crowd and all that shit, holy crap! Like that was a packed house, like really, really packed. Um, so the pre-show match was a 26-man battle royal. Um, it says eventually the final four was Yoshitatsu, Zack Ryder, Finlay, and Mike Knox were left. Finlay and Knox were eliminated by Ryder, who himself was then kicked and eliminated by Yoshitatsu. And I think it's funny that Yoshitatsu is still talked about to this day because he is in Pro Wrestling Noah right now. Which, I mean, good for him. Good for him. I know he's in All Japan too, but it's like, I mean, good for him. Like I wish he would have gotten more of a shine in WWE. But I mean, you can get what you get. So I know the first match was Shomiz versus Morrison and R-Truth for the Unified Tag Team titles, which went almost 3.5 minutes. Piss break match before you even get the show started. Um, I mean, it was a quick and short, like kind of fine match and all that stuff. It, like gets Shomiz over, gets them on the card and all that stuff. I wish they would just given that match more time, but I will talk about what match in particular should have gotten more time in a minute. Um, the next match basically was kind of a handicap match, if you want to call it that. It was Randy Orton or Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr. This should have been a handicap match, I believe, because Orton kind of like was talking shit, giving Cody Rhodes and young Ted massive shit in La Legacy. Um, and I think Randy Orton beating both of them like kind of just killed a lot of their momentum. I would say like if you just took Orton out of the picture, banned off factor, like Cody Rhodes versus Ted DiBiase Jr. could have been good, or could have been better, or even take DiBiase Jr. out of it too, like Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. That's a huge high profile match for Cody because it's one of those things where it's like who could beat who? Like, yeah, Orton's the well established like veteran at this point. Or well, I guess veteran, putting that term loosely there. But Cody has a lot to gain. Orton has a lot to lose. Um, and I think it would be actually a really good story to be told. Um, if it was just Cody versus Randy. I mean, that's just me. Um, but Randy Orton beats them. Lol. Then here comes the Money in the Bank ladder match. Okay. This one's going to be kind of interesting. Because we have Christian, we have Kane, we have Kofi Kingston, we have MVP and Shelton Benjamin. Uh, four of the main players that we had from last year. Good to see you guys. Then we have Jack Swagger, Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, who is still there, Evan Bourne, and Matt Hardy. Actually, no, actually five. I'm sorry. Christian, Kane, Kofi, MVP, and Shelton. Yeah, five. Five from the last Money in the Bank at Mania 25. Um, I was actually kind of shocked that they gave it to Jack Swagger of all people. Um, I would have, if it was me, I would have maybe given it to Christian, or Evan Bourne, just to see like if he can take the ball and run with it. Um, I think it would have been crazy to give it to Evan Bourne, but I mean, then again, they do a lot of crazy ass shit. So what you know. Um, so then after that we have Triple H versus Sheamus. Yep. Because this is off the coattails of like Sheamus winning the WWE Championship from John Cena 09 at TLC. Um, I think retaining against he retained it against Orton at Rumble in 2010, lost in that chamber, and then it goes into a feud with Triple H, which ends at Extreme Rules the next month because Triple H had be written off for surgery. Um, I mean, there was somebody I know on Reddit that had like if you put Sheamus's run in reverse. Like he was a multi-time world champion and all stuff and all crap. Um, I think it was actually kind of funnier if it was in reverse. Um, Only because it's just like it just makes me laugh. Because like coming in, Sheamus had like a huge wave of momentum behind him. Um, and it's like you don't think like he was a multi-time world champion, but he was. Um, the only title that's eluding him right now is IC title, which hopefully he will get soon. Um, but that's just me. Triple H wins. Lol. Um, so one of the matches that I think that should have gotten more time was Rey Mysterio versus CM Punk with Luke Gallows and Serena, aka Serena Deeb. I mean, God, she was freaking like at that time period, right? 2010, Serena with the shaved head, brother. I mean, she was. I would say she's a smoke show. I don't care what anybody says. She was a smoke show. Um, so this was the added stipulation where it's like if Mysterio had lost, he would join the Straight Edge Society. I know that they did a stip the next month, like if Punk had lost, he would have to shave his head. And then the pay per view after that, they just combined both of the stips together. Um, I would have liked to see Mysterio be in the Traded Society. That's just me. That would have been crazy. Maybe that would be a what if episode in the near future. Maybe. Um, this match should have gotten more time. I would say. Um, I would say this one should have gotten more time, only because of the next match that follows it was Bret Hart versus McMahon. That should have been easily 3.5 minutes, not 11 minutes. You should have maybe given 8 of that to the match before that match, because I say Rey Mysterio and CM Punk they should have like they were trying to get into a second gear, but with this short like match cap length, like they were just kind of just capped at whatever they had. And plus they've had good chemistry before. They've always had good matches together. Um, it was just sad that they just didn't get a lot of like time to do it. Um, Same with like the Chris Jericho and Edge match and all that stuff. Edge wins the Rumble in 2010, goes after Chris Jericho, and then I know like during the SmackDown tapings in 2010, Jericho loses the World Championship to Jack Swagger. Um, I think it would have been crazier if they just gave the belt to Edge. You know, comes out on the SmackDown taping or whatever, and kind of just be like, hey, you know, like I'm about to go away for a little bit, you know, yada yada yada. Jack Swagger, boom, comes in, hits him with a gut wrench powerbomb, instant heel heat. I mean, instead of doing it on a heel that nobody likes, it's a heel beating up a heel. Like, make it make sense. Um, I think they could have probably told a good story in less than 10, to be honest with you. Because it kind of felt like to me, it kind of dragged on a little bit. Like, if you had given like maybe shaved off like 5 of those minutes and given it to the Show Miz and Truth and Morrison match, like that could have been better. But I kind of see why they put Show Miz and Morrison Truth first because it was like to kind of get the crowd hyped up and all that stuff. Um, but I would say like if you taken like 6 minutes off the Bret Hart McMahon match and given it to Rey Mysterio versus Punk, that would have been way better. Um, Case in point, too, 10 woman diva tag almost went 3.5 minutes. Wow, cool. Alicia Fox, Lay Cool, Maurice, and Vicky Guerrero versus Beth Phoenix, Eve Torres, Gail Kim, Kelly Kelly, and Mickey James. Um, it was supposed to be, I think, like 2 minute, 2.5 minutes and all stuff, but Vicky Guerrero fucked up the finish. Boo, boo this lady. Um, I mean, it's not her fault, but like, it is kind of her fault. Um, what else is there to say? Um, so semi-main event: John Cena versus Batista. I really don't know what to say about that one either. It was kind of cool, I guess, in a way, to see Batista and Cena again. But this was like time, I think, like roles were kind of reversed a little bit, I think, in a way. Because Batista just came back, beat John Cena at the Elimination Chamber the month before. Cena, I think, automatically got a rematch clause. Um, I guess due to, I guess he's just because he's just John Cena. Um, and I mean, it was fine. It was fine for what it was, but I think they could have just done the AA and yeah, like kick out from Batista, boom, and then give baby Batista 2 or 3 more AAs. Like it would have been crazier, but but had to settle for a submission. Had to settle for a submission. So then they learned from their mistakes. Taker and Sean in the main event didn't go half an hour this time, thank God, but this was no DQ, no count out. It was streak versus career. Because if Michaels had lost, he would be forced to retire from in-ring competition. Now, a lot of people will say that the story aspect of it is in 26, but the match quality was in 25. I kind of agree with the match quality on 25. I kind of agree with the story on 26. But both matches are good for what they are at that time. Because this was the time where it was like, it was PG era. A lot of people were either getting into wrestling or getting out of wrestling. Because back then, you only had WWE, you had TNA, uh, maybe some other alternate, maybe like ROH at that time. Um, but like, it's like the best matches of Taker's career, I think, was the 2 matches that he had with Shawn. And both of them, to no fault of their own, are better in their own way because of the story being told on each one. Because if you kind of think about it, the match aspect for 25 is because Shawn is Mr. WrestleMania. He pulls on he puts on a big show for all the people, and kind of just goes, if I lose, I lose. If I win, I win, and all that stuff. But there's always that thought in the back of his mind, like, I'm gonna be retiring soon, and we know what happens when somebody faces Taker. But Taker, to no fault of his own, literally had to dig deep in both of these matches to put away Shawn Michaels, because Shawn, he's not going to back down from anybody. He's not going to back down from a fight or anything. Um, I think it had to take like two or three tombstones in 25 to put Sean down. I think it had to do the exact same thing in 26. I think, um, and plus I think there's a lot of callbacks to 25 as well. But also the added step of no DQ and no countout actually kind of made it way better. I think for 26 because it's like Sean. I knew like he wanted to like. I think in 25 like Sean wanted to like take a lot of his anger and frustration out on Taker in 25, but he knew like if he could or if he did, like he would get DQ'd. Taker would have like kept his streak alive and all that stuff. Um, but in 26, like rule books out the window. But streak versus career, it's like one of those like end all be all like sort of matches that you would see like in a highlight reel or a highlight of like somebody's career. Like I think like a lot of people still talk about the Taker matches to this day. I hope so. Um, but I think I've always said this too, but I always think that Mania 25 should have ended with Taker and Shawn. Because all the, like I said, in with 25, all the air got sucked out of the room after Taker versus Shawn at 25. They learned from their mistake and put Taker and Shawn on last, which was a good thing because it kind of made the crowd get hyped up for it, let the fans go home kind of happy, and sportsmanship and all that stuff. Let Shawn Michaels have his moment in the sun, and he would be retired until Crown Jewel. And then he would have like one of the worst matches of his fucking career, with Triple H against Brothers of Destruction, which was not needed. Um, so where do we think which Mania is better? Okay, so from an overall standpoint, I would say the consistency was in 25. Um, but I think the overall kind of like, I guess, overall match quality, I would say maybe it's in 26. But you gotta think about it this way. Both, like, there was, I think, both were title matches in the opening bouts on both manias. Um, there was some sort of like I guess not sibling rivalry, but like kind of a like a group or faction like influx of like fighting of it on itself. Um, Rey Mysterio was in two WrestleManias in a row. Um, and plus, like, hashtag divas get a chance, give divas a chance. Getting shit canned. Um, I wish they would just put the 10 diva tag before Taker and Shawn. Could have given the chance to give the crowd some cool down time. Like go get like a popcorn or something. I mean, yeah, like it sucks, but that's like kind of the dead spot. Um, but I think in overall like match quality, I would kind of give the edge to WrestleMania 25. Um, I would say the best matches from both cards. Let's just do this. The best matches from 25, in my opinion, was the ladder match, the Money in the Bank ladder match. The Matt versus Jeff was actually a good one. and then Taker versus Shawn. Those were the three matches from WrestleMania 25 that I liked. But on the scale of WrestleMania 26, I would say Ray versus Punk was a good one if it was given a little bit more time. And then Taker versus Shawn in the main event. Um, and I I think like a silent maybe sleeper. If I had to give one, I'd say maybe Jericho and Edge would be it's like a good sleeper. Um, if I had to give a good sleeper from 25, I would say the handicap elimination match. I would say that. Only because of Chris Jericho and Ricky Steamboat alone. Um, I mean, if you just had 8.5 minutes of Jericho and Steamboat, that would have been perfect on a WrestleMania card. Because it gives Jericho something to do, it gives Ricky Steamboat something to do, and plus, like, who would not want to see Chris Jericho versus Ricky Steamboat? I mean, come on. Um, and I know the story behind that was because of Mickey Rourke doing the movie The Wrestler. Um, and I know Jericho was like kind of like egging it on to wanting to fight Mickey Rourke. Um, but I kind of see where Rourke was coming from with that. Like he didn't want to like fuck anything up or anything. Like he didn't want to like accidentally like punch Chris Jericho's lights out. Having a tissy fit. Um, which truth be told would have been crazy to have Jericho versus Mickey Rourke, but Mickey Rourke at the end of that segment gives like a little right hand punch to Chris Jericho to send the crowd home happy. Um, so for this debate hour, I am gonna go with WrestleMania 25. If I was like booking it from a booking standpoint, I would have. I mean, I've preferenced this. I would have put Taker and Shawn on last for 25. I would have maybe like put like a lot of like moved some stuff around. I mean, I would have done like a Divas title match, like a women's title match. Like something like to kind of like give the crowd something. Um, like the triple threat for the World Heavyweight Championship. I would have put that on first. Just saying. Taker versus Shawn, main event. Triple H versus Randy Orton, maybe middle of the card. Um, the Intercontinental Championship match, I would have kept that that way. Kind of give people to like can't give people a chance to catch their breath a little bit. Um, Truth be told, both WrestleManias are good in their own way. Mainly because of Taker versus Shawn. Uh, um, but both were at a time in a time period where it was like PG language. You couldn't say shit. The F word, ass. You couldn't. I mean, you could say maybe ass or shit, but they would bleep it out. But this was also the time like John Cena was like wearing the Fruity Pebble shirts. You were seeing like Santino Marella on the rise. You were seeing like Evan Bourne. Kofi Kingston. Almost said Chris Cage. Holy shit, Kofi Kingston. Like but you weren't not seeing a lot of like things that we are seeing nowadays because like they were saying no 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 to blood and and vor and gore and all that stuff. Like they were saying lots of like no to that because they didn't want their product to be not kid friendly. um but then nowadays, you show blood and all that stuff, and there's little Timmy in the crowd going, "Yeah, like fuck yeah," Um, I think it's just kind of funny, like how we've grown out of the PG era into kind of like a modern day ruthless aggression kind of era. Um, and plus, you still have like kind of a lot of those key components from the ruthless aggression era. Like you have Randy Orton, you have I mean, like Randy Orton's like the main solo person from every era. You know, like ruthless aggression, PG era, modern day era. Um, because like there's a lot of people that's just left and gone. Like majority of these people that are both on all these WrestleMania cards, they're not even there anymore. Um, like Taker's gone, Sean's gone, Cena just retired, Show's gone, Edge is gone, Triple H is like he's there, like he's still there at the WWE, but he's like in a backstage role. Jericho's on another show, like Steamboat's retired, Roddy's passed away. Jimmy Snuka's passed away. Ric Flair, like he will pop up every once in a while. Like Punk, he's there. Miz is still there, which is crazy. Um, Kofi's like still there. Like there's a lot of people that are not in wrestling anymore, and it's scary. Um, because like when you think about it, like some of these people that we grew up like watching, like Rey Mysterio, CM Punk, John Cena, Edge, Chris Jericho, Kofi Kingston, Christian, Dolph Ziggler, a lot of these people like they've come up through WWE and all that stuff, but then now they've gone and done their own thing and doing their own thing in other companies. Um, but we've got to appreciate what we've got and what we have at this time. Um, Before I go on another ramble here, my clear cut answer, I've probably said it a few minutes ago, but my clear cut answer is WrestleMania 25. And that is it for the debate hour. I mean, I lasted a whole freaking hour doing a debate hour, which is crazy. Um, but if you like this video, please make sure to follow us on all social media links in the description below, which will take you to our Linktree page, which will take you to our Instagram pages, Twitter pages, the podcast Reddit pages on there. My gaming YouTube channel is on there. Still looking to go to 2,000 subs on my YouTube channel. I know it is. It's in sight. It is in sight. And tonight's song of the night, it is going to be a song from the 80s. I know. Huge shocker. It is from the 80s, like I said. It is from a band called The Cult. Huge mainstay of 80s pop rock and everything. The song in question, it is called Fire Woman. I think there's a music video for it. I believe. I'm not really for sure. But it is a fire, no pun intended, but fire song. And I think it is highly underrated. So yeah, that is tonight's song of the night. And I will see you next Thursday. Peace. Later, y'all.